Hello and welcome to the launch of a very special campaign, Cashless Bano India. This campaign to create awareness and to educate the masses about digital payment solutions.
It's a unique moment because India will technologically leapfrog in digital payment. It'll make India a more formal economy.
And if we can work collectively on the common sets of challenges that we have to drive digital India, I think we will be richer as a whole industry.
I now want to just turn to what are potentially some of the roadblocks and how do we overcome the roadblocks. Now, two aspects to that. I'm going to just start off with you. One, he said that somebody will say कि मुझे tax नहीं देना है. 18% tax है, 15% tax है, जो भी GST का tax है, मुझे वो tax नहीं देना है, इसलिए मैं cash देना चाह रहा हूँ. Now that, I guess, Amitabh, there is no solution but to just tell the guy you can't get away for too long. Well, that's, in a sense, a person is practicing tax evasion. He's wanting to remain part of the black economy, and you'll have to crack the danda in some way or the other.
Vikram, there's a big need for a change of mindset. You know, I mean, digital transactions also about use of technology. You know, so you need change of mindset. You need a totally radically different India, which realizes that the government will not tolerate anymore this informal economy.
But how do you change that mindset? You see, demonetization happened, and everyone said, okay, this is going to be this is an inflection point which is going to trigger that change in mindset. Now, after so many months of demonetization, there are many people who've gone back to the old habits. It's not that that has stayed. They've gone back to using cash. I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe you have the numbers. Is digital exactly at the same as it was, or is it going back down?
No, when the cash came in for 2 months, the digital had come down, but started again moving up. And my view is that in the long run, you know, digital is going to move up because of the spread of POS machines, with the spread of BHIM app, with the spread of Bharat QR code. Things will become very easy. So I mean, UPI has gone up by 21 times, USSD has gone up by 40 times. All modes of transaction have gone up enormously.
Changing mindsets as easy as...
No, let me give you the technical point about this tax evasion, because very important. Not many people understand it, you will see. See, the point is that if he has paid all the taxes on the things he has purchased, let's say it's 10, the extra tax which he is going to get is 11. If he doesn't collect that tax, he's already paid the 10. He is going to be 10 out of pocket. So this arithmetic has to be understood. You see, the merchant is actually then paying the tax. If he collects the 11, he is not paid anything. So he should actually be charging a differential price. Otherwise, he is going to lose. And this arithmetic is not understood. Once the GST is in place...
That's a really interesting point.
This is the thing which has to be...
With GST in place, the merchant will not be able to get the benefit for the tax he's paid.
And he'll only gain one. I mean, he'll gain one only. That's it.
It's a very important
he'll
point
pay out of his own
educate
pocket.
your merchants on. That if they take cash, they're out of pocket.
I would like to make some...
If he has paid all the tax, I mean, unless he also got it from a...
I would like to make some 2-3 points. See, over the period of time when I'm talking about 120 conferences, the first important roadblock was the transaction cost. Neither the merchant wants to pay the transaction cost, nor the consumer wants to pay the transaction cost.
Okay.
Unless, and we talked about banks. Bank says if we don't get revenue, we are not going to leverage it. This is one of the major roadblocks. In his address, he mentioned Government of India is spending 25,000 crores of rupees annually on production of currency. We have suggested government, and through him again we are suggesting that there should not be any transaction cost neither on the merchant nor on the consumer, but Government of India by way of subsidy directly make that payment to banks. It will enable and will encourage both merchants and consumers to adopt digital payment.
Okay, I think that's an interesting suggestion. I mean, let's come to you. The question of transaction tax. So one was somebody actually evading. And Dr. Virmani said that they need to get the maths into the head that if by evading, you're actually the merchant could be losing. But transaction cost is an issue. I still have people saying, well, if I'm going to pay with a card, I'm going to end up paying 2% more than if I was paying by cash. What would be the way around that?
So I think, quite honestly, if you look at the whole cost of transaction, there is a lot of confusion with respect to the real cost of transaction. There is a cost for credit cards. There is a cost for debit cards. Now, what the banking industry is doing, and which is something that's going to happen now across the board, the practice of a blended merchant rate, we are going to move away from that. You're going to have a separate cost for credit, a separate cost for debit. If you look at, Vikram, the cost of debit is actually coming down dramatically, and what is now being proposed as an industry and through RBI, that the cost of, say, an MPQR type transaction will be even lower. And as you look at this is that there is some very significant movement towards creating reasonable price points for a transaction.
Okay.
What you also have to keep in mind that it's the revenue pool that oils the whole engine for the banking industry to go deploy terminals, sign on merchants. All of that has a cost, and someone has to be cognizant of bearing that cost.
So before I take his suggestion to the government saying maybe the government should come out with some of that 25,000 crores they're spending on cash as a subsidy, your thoughts from a banking point of view on transaction costs?
Banking sector is also going under a transformation stage, and the major transactions are going to shift to the digital area. Gradually, what banks will be doing it is building up the cost factor in every transaction. What is the cost of a cash transaction? What is the cost of a cashless transaction? And accordingly, if both are equally priced, then of course the people will have a parity. They don't get any transaction advantage, whether doing by cash or by electronic mediums.
Let me get your take on it, and let me add one more element before I come back to Amitabh Kant, and that is the element which a lot of people are concerned about right now, which is the question of security and privacy. Let me add that also. So it's all, as Amitabh was saying, everyone's going to have Aadhaar and we're going to be paying with that and the rest of it. But I can't tell you how many people are concerned about, oh, it could get hacked, my details will be known, somebody will come and take all my money away. Is it secure? Is my identity going to be private? So I want to get your take on that too. Is it something which you hear from many customers?
So let me take the cost one first. I think it's very clear that there is a cost to issue a card, and there's a cost as far as putting those terminals on. But if you look at a debit card transaction, the average is about 1,300 rupees. What the industry has come up with is that debit card transactions up to 2,000 rupees, which is pretty much 80% of transactions, will be at 25 basis points to the merchant. The customer does not pay any charge. If there is any merchant who is charging you over and above that, it is illegal. If you bring it to,
this awareness needs to be spread. That
Correct.
Somebody is saying, "Tum card de rahe ho, to aap us pe 3% aur lagega." That person is doing something which is wrong and which
Correct.
is illegal.
Yeah, it's a very good point that's been raised. Now, the challenge traditionally has been if a merchant indulge in this practice called surcharging, and let's say Axis Bank takes away the terminal, another bank will come and install the terminal. Now, that defeats the purpose because the merchant doesn't feel the heat for surcharging. That is precisely what we're doing as an industry. We have now created, and soon to be launched, a national helpline which cuts across all payment networks, and we will promote it through digital social media channels and really create awareness that if a consumer is getting surcharged for a transaction, they'll be able to call that helpline and provide details on that merchant.
Okay.
Now, at the back end, the industry will share that blacklisted merchant list and make sure that we as an industry don't go out and terminalize.
The question that I raised about safety, security, and privacy, which is one of the major existentialist question marks over the entire digital vision that you were talking about.
So Vikram, first and foremost, my view is that we are moving from a low volume, high transaction cost regime to a high volume, low transaction cost regime. And as the number of transactions increase, the cost of transaction will radically fall. On credit card, because there's a credit card risk history involved, I can understand. But on debit card, it will definitely radically fall as it has fallen in recent time. As far as safety and security is concerned, let me tell you that government has done all its, it's put in a lot of professional knowledge and expertise in several layers of, to ensure that there's absolute safety and security, and I can assure you that we need not worry, we should move on. The march of technology is inevitable, and India must technologically leapfrog. Safety and security is on top of our mind, and we will take full care.
All right, let me just start getting some views. I know Amitabh Kant has to leave us in just 3-4 minutes. I'm going to come to a final question from him. Some questions from the comments from the audience. Dilip Cherian, I see. We can just get him the mic.
We've talked of cash and cashless. We've talked of rural-urban divide. We've also talked of formal and informal sector. But it may also be worth looking at, I don't know how this is being tackled in terms of training, there's yet one more distinction we need to make, which is the generational divide. Those like me who are sort of still uncomfortable with anything other than using a credit card and have not yet gone on to using Bhim Aadhaar, though now hearing Amitabh, I'm tempted to download that today and try it. There is, I think, a training need for those who are above a certain age threshold. They're uncomfortable with it, but I think that tech savviness, that comfort, is only a one-time transaction cost. And this is something that I think card companies and everybody needs to invest just that one bit of effort in it.
So Rachna Nath, I mean, you've got one last comment.
I think, when we are talking about payments and we talked about generation, we talked about merchants looking at P2P, kind of payment out here. I think one segment which I've seen work very well since I also worked with AMF companies out here are the women. So when we are talking about, literacy out here, I think that's a target group which is very, very important for us to get into consideration.
Okay, Mukesh Bhutani, I see you sitting there. Let me get one thought from you, and then I'm going to try and get Amitabh to give a final comment.
So I think security is key. I think every day we get greeted with all kinds of horrifying messages about security. We can ignore all of that, but I think that's really key. I know the government has made several statements, but there is nothing that has been said which comes across as a degree of comfort, particularly for people who are first-time internet and e-banking users.
Okay, so security, we are keeping on hearing security and Rakesh Dubey, one thought from you. Yeah, Rakesh Dubey, we can just pass him
the challenge which we are facing really, because we are working in rural area, how to go into the cashless transaction with that kind of women. First is that they are having only the basic mobile features, so unable to download the Bhim, UPI and other. Banks are long away from their houses. So where I think that's industry and Mastercard should be coming, and that's in any case we are doing in last 3-4 months in 3-4 states, digital financial literacy program across UP, MP, Maharashtra, those places. But again, the questions are being asked by these borrowers, that's how to transact on the mobile, that's one. Okay. Second is that we are losing, I think that's a sight of certain financial products like NPS, which is very important for these poor women. If we could link with the cashless kind of campaign, I think this will have a more a kind of both sides.
I think a very important point was made about women, and I think we need to convert them as the chief brand agents, and they must become the key promoters. And I think India needs to do, and I think we in government need to do a lot of more work with women. Once they become the key agents of change, I think men will automatically change.
And security, you think that's something which needs to keep on being upgraded and improved?
I think a lot of work behind the scene is done by government. I think the Ministry of Information Technology has done a lot of work. The DG Aadhaar has gone on record to say that there's been no breach. Simply because someone releases someone's Aadhaar number doesn't mean that there's a breach of Aadhaar's security at the back. It's absolutely impeccable.